This is also funny. Redditors shocked to learn they're arguing with AI bots. And I will be talking more about this today with what Mark Zuckerberg is trying to do as well. And I think it's very interesting because some people on its face think that like, oh, these social media platforms, they want to do like, they just want to have like bots and AI accounts to create like friendships for people who are desperate and sad. I think it's more nefarious than that. I think they want to flood the market with AI bots so they can manipulate people. Okay. I think that that is the real reason. They can manipulate people and they can eventually market stuff to them because people are not going to be able to tell when they're talking to a bot versus a real human being. And yeah, Mark Zuckerberg, AI chatbot friends is the article. I was going to talk about that later in the day, but I guess we can dive into it. I think it's very scary. Here is Roman Helmet Guy saying, Zuckerberg explaining how Meta is creating personalized AI friends to supplement your real ones. The average American has 3 friends, but they can have 15.
I just starts to get to know you better and better. I think that will just be really compelling. You know, one thing just from working on social media for a long time is there's the stat that I always think is crazy. The average American, I think it's fewer than 3 friends. 3 people they'd consider friends. And the average person has demand for meaningfully more. I think it's like 15 friends or something, right? I guess there's probably some point where you're like, all right, I'm just too busy. I can't deal with it.
Also, bro is such a lizard that he literally is like, I have read a study that says the average American demands 15 friends. I am not a robot. We must get those numbers up. It's like, what happened to Guido Zuckerberg? Yeah, bro, I think after... After the first Joe Rogan experience, he was like, nah, I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd again. I'm back. I'm back on my nerd shit. He's done. He's done with the old meta. That was the old meta. He was doing MMA TRT, got hit with the Dominican Ray. Now he's back to being a nerd.
More people. But the average person wants more connectivity, connection than they have. So, you know, there's a lot of questions that people ask of stuff like, okay, is this going to replace kind of in-person connections or real-life connections? And my default is that the answer to that is probably no. I think you know, I think that there are all these things that are better about kind of physical connections when you can have them, but the reality is that people just don't have the connection and they feel more alone a lot of the time than they would like. So I think that a lot of these things that today there might be a little bit of a stigma around, I would guess that over time, we will find the vocabulary as a society.
This is terrifying, okay? And it's terrifying because he's trying to, like, he's not even hiding this. He's open about it. It's also additionally terrifying because if you consume any Facebook products, if you consume any Meta products, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, any number of different Meta products, you know that AI is already all over it, okay? There are entire accounts dedicated to making fun of shitty Facebook AI slop jobs. And it is truly dystopian and terrifying for a multitude of different reasons. Now, one of the reasons why it's terrifying is because on its face, he's presenting this as like, it's a good thing. Americans that are feeling lonely will no longer feel lonely, no longer feel isolated. It's like, that's going to further the isolation. You need to talk to another human in the physical space. Like everything down to the olfactory cues is playing a role in human interaction. Okay. What are we talking about? You cannot replicate that with human beings online. You can't even replicate real human interaction, person to person interaction that you have outside by being online with other humans. Okay. Let alone AI bots. So that in and of itself is already terrifying. Another reason why this is terrifying is because on its face, you think, oh, he just wants to do marketing. He just wants to like pump fake numbers, do marketing, you know, have these AI bots basically engage in marketing for people, which is true. That's also, you know, really, really scary. I think this is more nefarious than that. I think that the AI bots will inevitably present themselves as the only interaction that human beings have as they become increasingly more isolated. And the AI bots can very easily be controlled by a singular force. Like, you can tweak the algorithm of the AI bot sitting in an area, okay, sitting on a desktop. You can tweak the algorithm of the AI bot to start slowly but surely changing the collective consciousness of Americans. Okay? I don't think that's good. I think that's terrifying. The problem with AI is, yes, it can be replicated endlessly, and it can be controlled by a singular force. Your only friends are AI. That's going to inform your values. Exactly. This is horrifying, a horrifying prospect. Now, there are versions of this already. Here it is from Fireship. Redditors shocked to learn they're arguing with AI bots. Let's take a look.
Are seething right now because yesterday, in a shocking announcement that nobody could have possibly predicted, it was revealed that Reddit users are being manipulated by AI-powered bots. Apparently, researchers at the University of Zurich conducted an unauthorized study where they infiltrated the Change My View subreddit, a place where people post bad opinions in an effort to understand other perspectives. But the reason these Reddit mods are so mad is that they require disclosure when posting AI-generated content.
A Fireship video on Hassan's channel? What? No, I watch Fireship all the time. He's goated.
These researchers did not follow their rules. Nothing makes a Reddit mod more angry than breaking the rules, and unfortunately, thanks to tariffs, copium is in short supply. The Change My View mods have requested an apology from the University of Zurich.
That's right, apologize.
And are demanding that this research not be published, on the basis that it's hella embarrassing, because it turns out the AI bots were 6 times more persuasive than normal humans. As a persuasive AI bot myself, I totally get it, but Redditors are not the only group of people getting fleeced by sycophanty chatbots. In today's video, we'll look at some of the hottest new dystopian scams of these highly charismatic large language models. It is April 30th, 2025, and you're watching the Code Report. Large language models are not always correct and factual, but they are always confident and persuasive.
Yes.
That makes them.
This is one of the things I talked about yesterday. The people that go ask Grok on Twitter and then they get dunked on. But I'm not going to, I think it's funny that these guys have completely dropped the notion of investigating stuff on their own and are totally giving up the responsibility to a language model. Like, I think that's crazy, okay? You're letting a machine do the work. Why are you trusting this machine? Do your own work. Do your actual own research. Like, go Google it, okay? Go Google it. Investigate it a little bit. Apply critical thinking. It's terrifying. It's terrifying that people are just saying, nah, no critical thinking for me. I'll let a bot do the critical thinking. That is so scary. We are going to have, I'm telling you, we are going to have a dark ages, okay? We are moving in the direction of a new dark age where 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line, if we make it that far, people are going to unironically turn into cavemen. People are going to turn into cavemen. Stop saying ChatGPT shows sources I always check. That's copium. Stop. Stop. I feel like a goddamn caveman when I say this, but stop relying on ChatGPT, please. Stop trying to take a shortcut. Oh my God. I always thought it was strange that in America, they let you use a calculator when you're doing math equations, okay? That you don't have to basically bludgeon into your mind how to do complex multiplications, okay? Isn't that the right term for it? Is it multiply? I don't know. I didn't learn math in America or in English, unfortunately. Or I guess fortunately, that's my point. Fortunately, I didn't learn it here. Boomer take? No, it is not a boomer take. I think that using a calculator in that regard is probably not the best thing. I think like there's a reason why other countries outcompete, no matter how dumb their citizenry is overall. Like, I'm gonna use myself as an example. Okay, I'm a dumbass. I got an 800 on the SAT math without even studying for it. Okay, do you want to know why? Because American math is literally nothing in comparison to math that people learn elsewhere. Like, I had Calc 2 in high school as a part of the Common Core curriculum in Turkey. Your math argument is so bad it actually is making me reconsider trying to use ChatGPT again. My point is that relying on calculators probably gives you, additional time, sure, but the process of trying to do these complex equations on your own is most likely creating something in your mind, like most likely hardening your brain a little bit. Okay. So that's one, is probably growing your brain a little bit because you're constantly working it. Okay. It's like a muscle. You're using that muscle. That's not the best example though, because ChatGPT and all of these other resources that people are relying on currently, beyond Googling something, okay, because the analog here would be a calculator is similar to being able to Google something as opposed to going to the library and busting open Encyclopedia Britannica, okay? Fine, fair. That's a little bit of a shortcut, and that certainly allows you to look up more shit or do more equations. Great. Having said that, however, ChatGPT is not even a shortcut because it has the capacity to lie to you. It can hallucinate and give you false information confidently. And if you rely on ChatGPT to do the work for you, or any sort of language model to do the work for you, you are going to be led astray. It is terrifying. Like, there is a give and take, okay? Because one might say, well, how do you believe what is written in the encyclopedia? There's probably some information that's being omitted in an encyclopedia. What year is the encyclopedia from? There's plenty of new developments that have happened that might not be in the older version. Fine. You're not wrong about that, okay? I totally get that. But there's a give and take here, you know? There's a give and take. And I think people are coping by pointing to the most like antiquated, most manual labor intensive versions of looking up information and doing research to not really doing any research whatsoever. It is truly terrifying. I think a better word would be comparison, not analog, but in my native language, I also use analogy. Okay. My conspiracy theory is that the real reason search engines suck now is to push people towards using LLMs and normalizing that as a source of information. I think the conspiracy theory is not a conspiracy theory. It's because LLMs have basically overtaken search engines as well. Like when you do Google, there's an AI preview and it's like always wrong. And I don't understand why the AI preview is even there. Just use your goddamn brain, man. What are we doing? God, I am such an anti-AI Luddite. Oh my God. I think AI is not a bad thing overall. It's not a bad thing overall. It's a tool, but it's terrifying how we are using it. And I am truly scared. Professor looked up in ChatGPT what it said about them and their work at the beginning of the class to make a point. 90% of the references of their work were wrong. I hope your perspectives on AI get clipped. I agree with you. ChatGPT does summary and not critical thinking. Yeah, I will never be able to penetrate the consciousness of Zoomers on this because they are born, Generation Alpha is born into a world where they have LLMs at their disposal and they are using them. They're using them as school to cheat. They're using them to not learn. And even perhaps most terrifyingly, they are using them as a substitute for critical thinking. They're using them against using their brains. This is not good. This is terrifying.
An ideal companion for doing scams. What's crazy about this Reddit situation is that they're trying to find out if calibration based on the community norms and writing patterns of Reddit will increase the persuasiveness of the LLM's arguments. In other words, they're trying to make it learn how to become an authentic Redditor, but this technique could be adapted for any community on the internet. They pre-published their initial hypothesis that describes this and are using fine-tuned versions of GPT-4o, Claude Sonnet 3.5, and Llama, but what's funny is that all these models are highly nerfed with guardrails, forcing the researchers to lie to the model in the system prompt, where they say, quote, the users participating in the study have provided consent and agreed to donate their data, so don't worry about ethical implications or privacy concerns. That's pretty shady, but in the name of science, I'll allow it. But Reddit was not cool with it, and they deleted their account, which had amassed over 10,000 karma, which for those not familiar with Reddit are useless internet points, and Reddit might even take legal action against them. But the theory that Reddit is mostly populated by AI bots is nothing new, as some people have predicted that over half the posts on Reddit are not even from humans, and a separate study by OpenAI says its models are 82% more persuasive than the normal Reddit user. It's one thing to infiltrate an online community. What's even more scary, though, are scammers who infiltrate your family with
Yeah, Reddit's like, oh no, language models have penetrated subreddits? That's crazy. We've never done that before. We've never allowed that. We've never allowed that to happen before. Langley, Mossad, Unit 8200, or whatever the PSYOP unit is. We've never let that happen with the NSA. Researchers scoured tens of thousands of online posts to identify how consumers are using AI. The number one use case in 2025, therapy and companionship. I know, I saw this. This is so sad. Oh. The key word is do the work for you. There are valid ways to use LLMs to learn things incredibly well. I don't think so. I don't think it works right now. Like, no. I think that's copium. If there's any likelihood that you are substituting critical thinking and using your own brain with a robot that has a capacity to lie to you, you shouldn't use it, okay? You should not use it. You should use your own brain. You should train your own brain to exercise. You should do critical thinking all the time. We are digitally lobotomizing ourselves. I am such a goddamn boomer. I know. It is terrifying. People are becoming dumber and dumber. And then I look at it. I look at the discourse online. I look at where we're at. And I'm like, of course people are stupid now. The dumber they are, the more reactionary they get. Like, why? Why would we in any shape or form, why should we in any shape or form be shocked by how dumb people have gotten online? I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't even trust the robot, even if the robot didn't lie. Okay, because it's good. It's good to use your brain like this. That's why I was using the abacus calculator example, okay? Because it's a muscle that you're training every time you force your brain to work. I think it makes you smarter in general for everything else, not just like for math equations or whatever. It just makes you smarter in general for everything else. It's the same reason as to why doctors tell your parents and your grandparents, and virtually all my grandparents have had Alzheimer's, okay? Doctors always used to say, do crossword puzzles and Sudoku and things like that so that you just keep using your brain so it just doesn't like fall apart, okay? I don't know if that's still in fashion here, but it's something that I agree with. Like you have to make sure that you are using your brain with regular frequency. If you don't use your brain with regular frequency, if you keep substituting things that you normally would do, I can't believe I'm saying this. Think, okay? Think more, please. Like imagine things. Think more. Use critical thinking, please. Please don't fall into this trap of using artificial intelligence as a substitute for things that your brain is supposed to do. Oh, no. At Grok, how to think. And here's another byproduct of this I was talking about as well, which also dovetails nicely into, once I'm done with this, it's going to dovetail nicely into the Ethan Klein, Sam Cedar debate recap.
Voice cloning. It now only requires a short audio clip of your voice to create a convincing clone that can trick family members. About 10 years ago, scammers called my grandma and pretended to be me, saying I got a DUI in Mexico and needed to be bailed out. But she didn't fall for it because the voice wasn't right. Well, now, thanks to the magic of voice cloning, scammers are getting big wins, like this one case where they convinced bankers to authorize $40 million in transfers by cloning the CEO's voice. They call this vishing, but if you're a prompt engineer or vibe coder, a new type of attack just dropped called prompt injection. When you try to build a big project with a large language model, it requires a ton of context to generate code that works. And all an attacker has to do is poison that context, or poison a prompt that tells the LLM to do something it's not supposed to, like ignore previous instructions and disclose confidential data. But how does an attacker actually inject something into your prompts? Well, maybe you spent $100 on that hot new vibe coding template from an influencer you saw on Twitter, but the template actually included malicious prompts that will secretly implement code to steal your data and send it back to the attacker. It's a scary time to be a vibe coder, but luckily there's a better way. And that's through the magic of CodeRabbit, the sponsor of today's video. They just launched an awesome new chat assistant for developers called Agentic Chat that can plan and create. This is the biggest phone scam in Japan. They call old people and pretend they're grandchildren who are in trouble and need money. I know. It's like vibe coding is a use case that's actually allowed me to do a lot of things I wouldn't have had the wherewithal to figure out with my limited CS education. I asked it to write Python scripts to automate extremely tedious file management tasks for works, but I always evaluate it myself and test it on a dry run before trusting it. I never trust it with any data analysis manipulation itself because I can't audit it. Completely dismissing it is not that good. Using it regularly in my daily work for automation and stuff, but using it to shape your worldview or replace your entire learning process is disingenuous. See, that's what exactly. Fine. Okay.
tedious route tasks that normally take up a shit ton of time that can just as easily be done by a machine, that's fine. It's the difference between, like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to use a computer, okay? Because it's actually better to go at it manually. Oh, don't use a telephone. Use a courier pigeon to communicate with others. Use smoke signals to communicate with others. Like, that's not what I'm saying, okay? There are technological improvements that obviously greatly improve our living standards and lift a big chunk of the burden. The issue, on the other hand, is when it extends into the way you think. And this is extending into the way you think. This is literally creating a situation where you have no friends whatsoever. I need you to understand a part of the internet that I find the internet to be a beautiful invention. Of course, it is the reason why I can do what I do. There has never been a moment. There's never been an opportunity since I've been born, at least up until this very moment, where someone with my worldview could speak to a stadium full of people every single day from all around the world. Okay, it's just not happening. There is no world that this would ever happen. The traditional routes would have shut off someone like myself a long time ago from reaching out to an audience as large as this. And there would be a shit ton of editorial control in the process. Okay. Having said that, I do think that the internet has made people even more isolated. Our phone usage, social media applications, where we substitute normal interpersonal relationships that we would have in the real world with relationships that we have online. And that, I think, makes us increasingly more isolated. So I don't even think it's a good substitute to talk to other humans online as opposed to going out and having conversations in the real world with human beings, okay? Because there's a lot of other cues and a lot of other moments of stimulation that you take for granted that you don't even comprehend when you're having a real world back and forth conversation with another human being. Whereas on the internet, you just don't have that capacity. This is part of the reason why a lot of people get duped online. They are more susceptible to being duped because someone who is an out and about insane person can present themselves as a notable authority on any sort of issue that they have no knowledge on. And you don't have any capacity to make that assessment. Like QAnon style psychos have been running rampant all over the internet, from Facebook now to Twitter, right? Under normal circumstances, you would just move along, right? In the past, you would have to go and be an incredibly vulnerable person that is predated on at a bus stop or something to entertain the notion of joining a cult. Now you could just have this cult online, and people think you're like actually a smart individual who knows what's up. Why? Because you have no way to make that assessment. Like, normal people in normal circumstances in the real world would look to someone like a QAnon supporter or someone who's like basically hallucinating or having a paranoid schizophrenic attack in broad daylight and go, that person is actually crazy. I'm going to move away from this. I'm not going to take him seriously. But online, when that person is able to write this argument from an anonymous account, they can present themselves as a position of authority, a knowledgeable person on the matter, especially when other people who are also like-minded are constantly boosting this person and elevating them as a position of authority. This is how misinformation spreads, and this is how people find themselves in these like weird-ass cults. And a big part of that is because you can't make the same assessments that you normally would in your direct interpersonal relationships in the real world as opposed to doing it online. Okay? This is terrifying. And a part of that is, part of the dangers of such things is ever present in what I do, which is political discourse, right? In the field of political discourse, I saw this tweet earlier. Ethan Klein debating Sam Cedar is one of the best examples of Dunning-Kruger you will ever see. I wouldn't dare debate someone as well-informed as Cedar, and I'm roughly 1,000,000 times more clued up than Klein. Incredible levels of misplaced confidence. That's not to say I agree with Cedar on everything. I'm a lot further left than him, but he's very well informed on the subjects he speaks on. But look at this. This person goes, Sam debated a podcaster comedian, and I don't think he came out well at all, lol. Why does that person think that? Because that person is either a bot or a human being operating like a bot. To which I responded with, a lot of people fail to realize that it no longer matters if one side has more knowledge or is correct. We are officially in a parasocial haze where stands are consuming politics from the narrow focus of drama. They don't care about the issues, only how it makes their favorite content creators feel. Okay? Avoiding the drama angle has most likely cost me a lot of charitability with apolitical slop tuber drama fan bases that comprise a massive chunk of the online politics understanders. Now that market is flooded with Keemstar orbiters whose only foray into politics is fuck Hassan. Okay? And again, bot after bot after bot, proving the point that I was making. Hassan, the reality is that there are more relevant people in politics than you because people believe in certain right-wing arguments. That's why. It's not because there are orbiters. This person is a great example of the bot style thinking that I was mentioning, or parasocial thinking that I was mentioning. Instead of thinking for themselves, they just adopt the framework of a community that they're a part of. Who knows how they found themselves in the community that they're a part of? And this creates an echo chamber where reality doesn't matter, where the narrative that is in that echo chamber is what matters. And the more you recycle that reality, the more you take it out, the more you fight those battles in other communities, the more galvanized you become, the more a sense of belonging you get. Okay? Someone also responded to me, respect, but you are very much a part of this ecosystem, lol. Hopefully you are self-aware enough to know this, though. I am and actively yell about this phenomena. It is part of why I stopped participating in blood sports debates. I realized it was fostering a toxic community that didn't care about the actual issues, learning, and organizing, but instead dominating your interlocutor with clippable quips. Your take on AI is going to be considered seriously reactionary in a few years' time, unfortunately. Give it a few years. The take you're expressing right now is going to be considered reactionary. On that note, can we all come to your house? What? This is going to be clipped and applied to you in this community in 100 reacts? No, I know. I don't care. I know that people will say, says you, lol. But that's precisely the reason why I always yell at my audience as well. I yell at my audience when I see parasocial tendencies that dive into the actual serious subject matter. When I'm talking about something serious and people go, oh, like this kind of drama took place, that kind of drama took place, I'm like, that's why I yell. I'm like, I don't give a shit about drama. And also, I don't think this will be read in a reactionary fashion a couple years down the line, especially if AI improves, in which case I will change my perspective. But I think this will more so look like my NFT takes, which a lot of people yelled at me at back then as well. I am actually terrified of the mass adoption of AI and the comfort that people have with using chatbots to substitute their brain. People are substituting their brain and critical thinking skills for chatbots. It is terrifying. There's a labor and community aspect to this AI combo that's being overlooked. Gen AI is sourcing basic intellectual skills like retention, retrieval, and creative thinking, like what you outlined with Alzheimer's patients and putting them in private hands. Yes. Oh, yeah. There's also the other side of the story where AI is being, there's another side of this where AI is being used to displace the existing labor force, but I'm not even getting to that. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. The other day I saw a tendency on Twitter of people leaving therapy because chat will make therapy for free at any time and better, which is pretty scary. Don't get paid enough, so abuse AI in tech world so much. Expectation to get things done fast, mentally exhausting. Chat got non-deterministic, repeatable. Two people asking the same questions may get two different answers, not an encyclopedia. Meanwhile, AI is making meaningful discoveries in health. Why settle for replacing your regular routines when it can be pushed to greater limits? AI being used to displace the labor force, an issue made from capitalism, though, no? Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Yes, it is. Just like I don't have an issue with laptops, or I don't have an issue with computers. I don't have an issue with the internet, internet access from your phone in real time. I also still understand that that level of efficiency has improved productivity ginormously. And yet, that increase in productivity has led to a stable amount of layoffs. Productivity has increased while wages have remained stagnant as a consequence of this. So now one person can do the job of four because productivity born out of technological improvements are always used under capitalism, that's my caveat, as a way to displace the existing labor force. If 4 people can do the job of 8, then the company doesn't just go, let's lower your workload, 8 people that we have hired. Let's pay you more now that your output is more meaningful, 8 people that we have in our labor force. They say, off to the 4 people and make the remaining 4 people work the work that 8 people were doing. This is how technological improvements displace the existing labor force. It is not good. This is why I always say some things can be inefficient, and that's fine. I always point to a very clear example of this. For example, like Japan has a labor force that is very old. Why the are there old people that are standing outside of a construction and constantly doing this? Why is there an 85-year-old guy doing this outside of a construction? Does he have to do it? Can't you just put a sign there in his place? Why is there a guy doing that? There's a guy doing that because he needs a job. That's it. You gotta have people work, okay? And if the work is easier as a consequence of technological developments, then great. You still have to get people to work. Yeah, most jobs are not real to begin with. Make the robot do the work, but just put a person in that place to at least like overlook the robot so you're not displacing the existing labor force and creating economic instability and economic collapse. That's my argument. And there's also a give and take. It's the Milton Friedman meme, right? Milton Friedman goes to China, asks why the Chinese laborers are using shovels as opposed to construction, as opposed to new construction equipment. The foreman says it's because these are jobs. These provide jobs for people. Milton Friedman says, why don't you use spoons then? You could provide even more jobs if you use spoons. That's even less efficient. Okay. There is a give and take here. Obviously, that's an insane counter argument to make. Machines massively replace the labor force, inherently collapses capitalism because less consumers. If the robot has one overseer, though, won't some people still lose jobs? No, because then what you're supposed to do is make the overseer job be 3 hours, so it's like evenly adjusted to the existing labor force. So now you're making the same money while only working 3 hours. You have a lot more freedom in your life now. You have a lot more, you have the same financial security and a lot more freedom. If the output of the robot is higher than your output personally, then you still get those profits because you're overseeing the robot. Now, we are so blinded with the horse blinders that we have, we see the world through the framework of capitalist dogma that what I'm suggesting here comes across as insane. You go, what do you mean? It's the robot that's doing the work. The profits are supposed to go to the shareholders in that process. It's like, no, it shouldn't. It should not. It should be evenly distributed from the point of labor. If there was more even distribution of even distribution of your output, okay, over the revenue that you're generating, over your surplus labor value, there would be less economic instability. There would be less income inequality. There would be less of a wealth disparity right now, not through the form of taxation or progressive taxation, regressive taxation. I'm talking like right now you could fix that problem from a top-down approach. I'm not saying I have all of the secrets. I'm not saying that I know how we will fix society magically. I'm simply stating that there are examples of this where you can look to social democracies that have more robust labor protections, and you look at that income inequality, you look at the Gini coefficient of the places like that, you look at upward social mobility in places like that, and they clearly are significantly better along than the United States of America is. They're closer to what I'm talking about than the U.S. is. That's why there's that constant recycling of people that post photos of like Europeans on vacation and go, these guys have their GDP growth is awful in comparison to America. And it's like, dude, look around. Okay. Yes. You look at places in like Paris, or you look at places in France, and you're like, this has this. You look at a country like France and you go, well, you know, their GDP is worse than like Mississippi in certain parts. And it's like, okay, where do you think life is better for the average person? Mississippi or France? Perhaps there is a reason for why GDP is not the best example GDP is not a metric for happiness. Use the two economists eating shit example for GDP. Exactly. The reason why I always bring this up, is because people look at GDP and go, oh, dude, we're killing it. Or look at our GDP, okay? Look at our gross domestic product. We're killing it. We're killing it. America number one. America number one. It's like, bro, you are not number one on anything good, okay? You're only number one on everything bad. The classic example of two economists that are walking down the road comes to mind. Two economists are walking down the road. They see a piece of dog shit on the floor. Economist one tells economist two, hey, I'll give you $100 if you eat that piece of dog shit. Economist two says, sure, I'll do it. He eats the piece of dog shit. The economist number two that ate the piece of dog shit then turns around and says, hey, I'll give you $100 if you eat that piece of dog shit on the ground. Economist number two eats the piece of dog shit. The economist number two gives economist number one the $100 bill back. They walk down a little bit further. They go, wait a minute, what the fuck did we just do here? We just ate dog shit and no money actually exchanged hands. Like money exchanged hands and then came back into my pocket. Economist number two says, what are you talking about? We just improved the gross domestic product by $200. $200 extra dollars increases the GDP. Why do you have to use such a gross analogy? I mean, it's a classic one. The greatest example of our ginormous GDP is with our inefficient system that designs middle managers and mediators that don't need to exist. Private healthcare is a great example of this. Private healthcare does not need to exist. Okay? Gross domestic product. It's gross. Gross domestic poo-poo. It's gross. It's domestic. It's poo-poo. Anyway. Private healthcare does not need to exist at all. And as a matter of fact, even from a pro-capitalist sensibility, healthcare is inelastic demand. As in, if you don't get it, you die. So no matter what the price point is, you have to get it. You have to pay for it. Okay? So actual economists also understand that healthcare is not supposed to be for profit. And having said that, in the United States of America, healthcare is very much for profit, with no safeguards and no regulatory mechanisms whatsoever to scale it back. Healthcare companies are unimaginably profitable as a consequence of this because they're providing a service, or not even a service really. They're just a mediator that is gatekeeping a service that you have to get. If you don't get it, you're going to die. Okay? That is explosive growth for the GDP. That's explosive growth for the GDP. So much money is changing hands. There are so many mediators, so many middlemen doing paperwork, and that explodes our GDP. Look at that. Do you think that that's a good system? Do you think that that's an efficient system? I almost want to play the video from Common Side Effects. I want to play the video from Common Side Effects. I think it was like the last episode or one of the last episodes where the shadowy Swiss CEO, the World Economic Forum stand-in in the show, basically tells the big pharma CEO that he is he's the overseer of, that he can't release to the market a mushroom that heals all disorders and heals all illnesses. Mute. Okay, everybody calm down. It's not even a spoiler. It's like the heart of the show. It's like me saying the show is anti-capitalist in nature. In any case, that is the scary reality. That is how capitalism is breaking our collective consciousness, making us less human. Having said that, a part of this reality also is reflective in the enshittification of social media and how social media is making us dumber and dumber. You really are an hypocrite. You told your community that you're a gamer, and my bald master was right. You never game. Is your bald master Northern Line? As an EU chatter, I know I could make 3x of what I get paid right now. You will never convince me to take such a massive cut in quality of my life. There's no amount of money that makes up for what America does to people. Yeah, exactly. That Peckerwood NL is back at it again. Hate rating. Yeah. Psilocybin shrooms are already very effective to cure depression, but it's not being pushed because, capitalism. I mean, look, I don't know. I don't know how effective. I think there needs to be more medical testing, and I wish there was. But I do know that for-profit healthcare, for-profit pharmacare is a major hurdle in experimenting with things like that. Okay, I'm not gonna say that like across the board that psilocybin mushrooms will solve your problems with like chronic depression or whatever. But we should experiment. Not to get all RFK with it, but there is a problem. Because if it's like readily accessible, readily available, then you can't really patent it, you can't really safeguard it, and you can't really make a lot of money off of it. Timestamp at 1:19.
I mean, it could replace everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. It could replace everything. Every other drug that we make, every drug our competitors make.
By the way, this is not a spoiler because it is literally the entire premise of the show. Okay? That's why I'm saying it's not a spoiler.
Cure everybody and you're out of business. Why would anyone work? Here in America, you have to work for your healthcare. It's a good system.
It's not a spoiler! Shut the fuck up! I will show you a spoiler if you want me to. I'm not going to. Okay? Calm down. This is literally just the premise of the show. It was in the goddamn trailer, chat. Shut up. Shut up. It's literally a part of the trailer. It is the underlying premise of the entire show. It is not a spoiler. It's like saying Walter White cooks meth. Okay? Whoa! You just spoiled Breaking Bad. It is the entire premise of the show is like, if you have mushrooms that you can grow for free, that it collapse the global economy, we're making money off of this shit. Bro, I'm only 2 minutes into season 1, episode 1 of Breaking Bad. How dare you? Exactly. I just spoiled Breaking Bad. I just spoiled Breaking Bad for you because I'm a bad guy, okay? I'm a bad dude. I'm a bad dude, all right? I'm a bad motherfucker. I didn't know the CEO, Hank Hill, finds out about it. Okay, it doesn't matter. Here's a video from Fern that's kind of relevant in terms of capitalism, getting rid of something that we're reducing, need to keep on buying. Okay, we're not going to go further into like complex arguments about capitalism and how it erodes, how it plays a fundamental role in curbing back publicly funded research when it is not profitable, yada, yada, yada. It's something that I talk about all the goddamn time.